What a wacky world we live in that we're actually talking about Jack Sparrow when we probably should be talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Well,
I got a jar of dirt, I got a jar of dirt, and guess what's inside it?
but anyways, in all seriousness, welcome back to another episode of Raunchy Reviews. In this one, yes, we are returning to the Pirates of the Caribbean, the second one to be exact, which is Dead Man's Chest. But anyways, let's get into this.
So the main characters in Pirates Dead Man's Chest is Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann as like the first ones. You also are introduced to Davy Jones. Then another character we're introduced to is Bootstrap Bill, who is actually the dad of Will Turner.
So I guess the first character we should probably go over is Captain Jack Sparrow. To be honest, his character hasn't changed much from the last movie, which personally I don't mind that. I think his character didn't need a lot of change or anything.
Yeah, they pretty much hit it right on the nail in the first one, so they didn't need to change too much.
But they did actually add something to his character that I did feel was cool, which they actually showed him being cowardly, which I feel is kind of a trait of Jack Sparrow, but I feel like it's more of he needs to get out of a certain situation more than he's being cowardly. Like, when he knows he's outmatched, he'll probably back out of a situation. When he was, like, fleeing the shit, that was like, so cowardly of him, and then it was cool that he did actually go back and redeem himself right away.
He returned right away. He didn't leave for too long.
Yeah, so, I mean, he came to his senses pretty quick on that.
Yeah. Will, in this movie, his kind of main goal is to get the compass from Jack Sparrow, and to do that, he needs to kind of go along with his adventure, and eventually he gets onto Davy Jones' ship, and that's when he meets his dad. But that's kind of his more main story through this one. And it's kind of weird because there's a couple storylines I feel going through this one.
Yeah, it's not more so storylines, but I feel that this one kind of Empire Strikes Backing it in a little bit of a way, where there's, like, you know how they have the Luke story and the Han Solo and Leia and that story going on. So I feel like they're kind of doing that a little bit with this. So another character that I kind of want to bring up is James Norrington, who I actually forgot his name in the last movie, but he's pretty much the white-haired dude. He returns in this a little bit midway through the movie, and he's, like, completely disheveled and just gross looking because he's pretty much was, like, fired or whatever.
No, he quit.
He quit?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was? Alright.
It said he resigned, so.
Okay.
He knew he was going to be getting fired because he let them get a little bit of a head start in the end of the first movie, so that's why he kind of resigned, and so his main goal was to just get himself back into the fleet or as a Commodore again. So another really interesting thing that was kind of a part of this movie, or just, it was more brought up subtly, but it was how Elizabeth kind of is battling her feelings for Jack Sparrow in this movie. So it's not super apparent, but, like, you know, you can clearly see in some parts, like, she is clearly falling for him, or she was about to kiss him. I know in the end scene, she does eventually kiss him, but that was just to get the cuffs on him, and that was after. So once she finally met up with Will again is what I think kind of brought her into not, you know, having the feelings as much for Jack anymore, and that's how she was even able to trap him on the Black Pearl in the end.
So one last thing before we move on is, what was your kind of favorite character moment? I think my favorite character moment was freaking watching Jack Sparrow go head on with the Kraken.
Yeah, when he just lifts up his sword, or when he throws on his hat and lifts up his sword and just kind of accepts what is about to happen.
Yeah, like that is a man fighting to the death.
Agreed. He knew what was about to happen, and he couldn't really fight with it. I thought that was a very good moment, but I'd have to say my favorite character moment is honestly when Elizabeth traps Jack Sparrow on it, because it was kind of her turning point into whether she was going to have any feelings left over for Jack, or be with Will for ever and actually get married to him.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think my favorite character throughout all this was Bill Skarsgård as Bootstrap Bill. His makeup and just everything about him is just like awesome. Not awesome, but
the
gross
first shot,
cool.
like he starts talking and water just pours out of his mouth.
Right,
And
it's like all nasty.
grabs the bottle of rum and it's all crusted to his hand. So, in this movie, Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann are sentenced to the gallows because they helped Jack Sparrow escape in the end of the first movie. Unless Will can get Jack's compass to Lord Beckett, who is the leader of the East India Trading Company, who is kind of the other villain besides Davy Jones. Also, Jack Sparrow is reminded that he has a debt to pay and that his time is kind of up to even be captain of the Black Pearl anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So for Will to get Jack's compass, he needs to go on another crazy adventure with him, and that will end up saving Jack in the long run.
I generally didn't have a lot to say about the plot. I do think that it is not convoluted. It's just like, it's a whole mishmash until it does actually come together in the final stuff.
Yeah, there's plenty of different things going on.
Like
until the last
Yeah,
scene.
I mean, there's a lot of fun scenes that happen in the movie, and I mean that's cool, but it is just a big mishmash of scenes. So I mean that's a bit of a dock on it, but it's not a big thing. I mean, kids won't even notice that.
Yeah.
So. I honestly think that this movie was shot pretty well. I didn't felt like the score jumped out at me, so that's kind of something that I feel maybe the score could have been a little bit better, because there wasn't that big moment of like, the swell of music that comes from the Hans Zimmer score of the. There wasn't, I feel, that moment in it.
I thought the stuff with on the organ and that was played by Davy Jones was really good. It emphasized what was going on in the story usually.
Mm-hmm. That was actually some really cool stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Bringing up Davy Jones though, his CGI is freaking amazing.
Phenomenal. Still holds up 100%
Like,
to this day.
This movie came out in 2006, and I still think that this can go up against Thanos.
It easily looks as good as Thanos. If not, I could say even better.
I'd honestly say better because
they used his real lip and eyes, so that's what really sold it, because that's the hardest part to, recreate.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it does generally look a little bit better than Thanos, because I think we actually have that visual reference of, alright, what do tentacles kind of look like? Mm-hmm. So that we actually, okay, now that's all over his face, we can see it and visually understand it as well.
So the scenes with the Kraken are actually like really scary. I wouldn't say the CGI is as good as Davy Jones, just because they had to also do Davy Jones with, the budget, but I think, honestly, it looks amazing and everything, like, there's nothing that really stands out as, like, a bad CGI. It's genuinely terrifying how it looks when it's, like, attacking, or when it's screeching into the face, or into Jack's face in the end. It's, like, that part looks extremely realistic, all the teeth just bulging out, and
then like the spit actually getting thrown onto Jack.
Yeah, the loogies getting in his face.
One of my favorite scenes, and I don't know if this is your favorite scene, but my favorite scene is when they got stuck on the island with all the, I don't know what you call them. Are they islanders? The tribe people?
The tribe that's on the island? I don't know, the cannibals?
Yeah, pretty much they eat they're getting ready to eat them.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny. So in the scene where Will is actually looking for Jack, one of the people who mentions that they've seen the Black Pearl on the island mentions, mentions that they have like a really good kind of food.
Delicious long pork. Cannot say about Jack, but you find that ship there.
What he's talking about is human meat, and it's kind of messed up.
But honestly, I think everything on there is funny, because like Jack Sparrow is pretty much being held captive as a god.
Yeah, he's the god of the island, and he's in more trouble than everyone else.
I think that just leads into like the most funniest stuff that happens to Jack Sparrow in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like some pretty much just slapstick comedy where he's like stuck on a stick.
He walks out of the one like butcher shop and he's just like,
Oh bugger.
because everyone's there, just the whole of everyone.
And then I believe they're gonna roast him alive.
Yeah.
And then I found it funny how much he could bend that bamboo stick to actually get him off of the fire. Or like when he actually like does the frickin' almost like a pole vault spin in the air to actually launch himself onto the other side of the cliff. But I think my favorite shot though is when he's running on the beach and there's just the huge crowd of people just
everyone
chasing
him.
I almost imagine that's what it's kind of like for Johnny Depp every day if like fans see
with
him.
the fans, yeah. So I think there's plenty of scenes in this movie that just crack you up as soon as you hear whatever they say or see what they do, and we'll just put a couple of those right here.
What do keys do?
Keys unlock things.
Thing went wrong after that. They strapped me to a cannon.
Save me. Do something! Hey, Scungili! Got it!
So one thing that I just put down here is that I do think the tone in this one does become a little bit darker. As much as this is a kid's movie, I feel like it's kind of going the Harry Potter route of like the movies get a little bit darker as the kids grow up.
Yeah,
with
well,
the movies,
you
too.
know, the first one starts with Jack Sparrow sailing on a sinking ship to a dock, and this one starts with him breaking off the leg of a dead person and using it as
an oar.
Yeah.
One thing that I found funny is that he learned from his experiences with Elizabeth Swann from the first
When
movie.
he was trapped on the island with her.
Yeah, so in the first movie, she burned all the rum to try and create a smoke signal for people to see. When Elizabeth Swann came on to Jack Sparrow's ship again, he's immediately like,
Elizabeth.
Hide the rum.
So, again, just want to bring it up. The pair of pirates, the one with the wooden eye and the one with the nasty teeth, those guys are still funny. There's still some good comedic relief every once in a while. Just wanted to bring that up. And there is actually only one sword fight throughout this movie. As, in the first one, there was a couple sword fights that happened. This one, there's only one kind of big sword fight, which is between...
Well, but yeah, it is also a really big one.
It
between
is.
characters.
It is. It's Will, Jack Sparrow, and James Norrington all fighting for...
They're all fighting for reasons that make sense to each character. So.
Mm-hmm. And I do like how the only one who's actually not playing dirty in the sword fight is Will Turner. Because, like, you'll see that James Norrington, he, like, kicks sand into Will's face. Jack Sparrow will just be doing random shit and just trying to get out of the fight himself. Or just, like, be trying to take the key from them or some shit. Coolest shots, though, from that was definitely when they're on that spinning wheel.
Yeah,
and they're doing the sword
they're
fight.
still fighting. Yeah.
That was
That
definitely
must
some
have
of the
been
cool
a hard
stuff.
shot to film.
Yeah, there was that one shot where, like, the camera actually was, like, rotating with the thing, and it was like staying in motion with it, or like stabilized.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really
imagine
cool
doing
effect.
that.
So the last thing I want to say is the cliffhanger in this is kind of a big one. They do leave you on like the biggest cliffhanger. Pretty much you don't know if Jack Sparrow died or not, but pretty much you have to assume that he died because everyone's mourning his loss. And then they're like, oh, what will you do to get Jack Sparrow back? Well, you'll also need a captain to get you there. Bada ba-boom, you are introduced... you are introduced to Captain Barbossa from the first movie. And he's finally eating that apple that he wanted.
Yeah, he finally got his apple.
Shiver me timbers! I have facts shooting up the booty. I have an anal crusader. A rectum ranger, if you will. Of facts.
It's not even funny.
Not even a little?
I don't know, man. I can't.
I tried so...
I'm sure you tried so hard. Alright, man. Let me hear him.
Let's just move on. So the scene where Jack Sparrow calls Davy Jones fish face and he says, I got a jar of dirt, and all that stuff is actually all improvised by Johnny Depp. So all the reactions from all the other cast members were real reactions.
Real genuine, yeah.
So Johnny Depp's frequent collaborator is Tim Burton. He actually contributed some of the concept art for the fish people or whatever for Davy Jones's crew. So I thought that was actually really cool. So the Kraken was actually super difficult to animate, and the reason that it didn't actually look very good, and probably not as good as Davy Jones, was because they had no visual reference. Like, they didn't actually like come up with like a design that they could bring on set or something like that. It was more so something that they just conceptualized, and that's kind of why it looked a little weird. It was just
tentacles out of water, man.
Pretty much, and you know, how many visual representations do you get of that? So... Yeah. So my final thoughts on this movie is, I definitely thought this movie was fun. I think this movie was definitely better than the first one. In my eyes, I think there was just a couple more things that made me laugh out loud. And, you know, there was the CGI was also better and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The only thing that kind of holds it back for me is it does leave you on that cliffhanger and doesn't tie everything up nicely. It does work as in regards of, alright, now let's go watch the next movie. But I do kind of wish they completed the story a little bit than leaving you hanging.
My thoughts on this movie were, I wouldn't say it holds up to be quite as well as the first one. With all the performances, I'd say were just as good as in the first one, but I just wouldn't say the plot was as solid, and because it does end on a cliffhanger that almost seems like a cash grab, so they could have a third one right away. Mm-hmm. Besides that, I don't know. I would say there's nothing bad with the movie, and it was still a great watch, and this whole saga of films are still one of my favorites. So.
Oh yeah. So do you think that if this movie was never actually made, do you think that they, you know, kind of just like made the third movie? Do you think that would have been as satisfying then?
If they just finished with the third movie?
You know, like they just completely pulled the second movie out and they just did the first one, and then the third movie would be their second movie.
No, because there's a lot of things that
they set up in this one.
Everything's set up in this movie to happen in the third movie, pretty much. So,
okay,
if they were even able to do that, it would be difficult, and they just need to make the movie twice as long.
I guess you're right. Before we leave here, we are also in a new location, so this is pretty much going to be our studio setup for now, and we are going to be changing the background a little bit. Besides that, I believe that's all we have for now. So please, if you guys like this video, please leave a like on this, and if you have any comments or movie suggestions that you have and want us to review, please leave them down below, and we'll try and review them or get to your comment. Remember to hit that subscribe button, because that subscribe button will be waiting for everyone, and I think we're out here. Deuces.
Does that look infected to you?
No. Rub some more dirt on it, it'll be fine.
Well, there's sock in it right now. Yeah, I think that's why that part's all black.